This is the help for the client section of WebAVA. First thing that we might want to look at when we're in the client section is how to search for clients. And there's a few different ways to do that. We can obviously just click a button to load all of our clients. That's usually simple if you don't have that many clients. But if you have a relatively large client list and you don't want to look at every single client that's in here, we could do it a couple different ways. One of the first ways is we could go by zones. So if you've worked with our implementation team and we've broken up your clients, or we break up your clients by zone, just select the zone that you want to go into. Go ahead and you can also then click the search function, and it should just pull up your clients for that particular zone. And if we need to change that, look at another zone, absolutely. Click search again, and it's going to make that change for you. If you know just the first couple letters of the client's first or last name, you can always put that in as well. Make sure that you don't have zone selected though, because it will just look for those letters and that zone. It's like two filters. So we've put in the first couple letters of the first name, hit search, and it will just populate that client for us from there. If you don't see a client on the list, it might be a good option that maybe they haven't been activated yet within the system. And so if you want to see inactive clients, just deselect this checkbox, remove any filters that you've put in there, and go ahead and hit load your clients. This will load up any clients that are not active within the system for you. And again, to go back to see active clients, just select the checkbox, go ahead and hit load your clients. It's going to load all the clients up for us again within the system. If we ever wanted to add a new client, it's very simple. We'll go in and click the button Add New Client. And from here, you'll just enter the biographic information in here and then go through these tabs. I'm not going to add that with you right now, but we'll go to an existing client and we'll look at that information in there as well. So let's go to an existing client. If anytime you want to go into an existing client, we can click anywhere on this field right here. If you wanted to go directly into the authorizations, which we'll cover in a little bit, you can click right on the little authorizations icon. But let's just click on our client. We're going to go into the same field we just looked at when we were adding a new client. So obviously, you're going to have your biographic information in here. Make sure we put that into the system. Correspondence email, this is going to be the main email address of the family. If you need to add more than one email address because maybe mom and dad are separated or grandparents are involved, you absolutely can do that. Just come down here, add additional email addresses, and then separate them by a comma. We do have some external software that we can connect to, and we've done that for clients. And so this is where we would put that information in. If you're using something like that, our implementation team will work with you to make sure that all that information is correct within the system. From there, we can go to treatment locations. And these are home treatment locations. You can add as many treatment locations as you would like for a client. It's very simple to do that. We'll just click Add Treatment Location. You can go ahead, put that information into the system, and then save that treatment location, okay? If we want to go back to treatment locations and look at the existing stuff in here, we can do that as well. And if we ever needed to edit anything because maybe they moved or whatever, just click on the pencil icon. That will take you in and allow you to edit any of this information that's there within the system, okay? Next sub-tab we're going to move to is the guarantor. The guarantors is going to be probably the family's information that's in the system. What is their group number for the insurance? Do we need to use that for insurance? And then what's the description? Put that information in there and then save it within our system, and it will be saved there for you. Related files. This is where you can go and upload any sort of files specific to this client right here. So for instance, if you wanted to save a copy of the front and the back of the insurance card that you've scanned for your client, easily do it, save it as a PDF, come down here, say you want to add a document, type the description of the document that you want to save, so you could write insurance card, and then go ahead and choose that file from your computer, upload it, and it will save it there for you. So once you choose that file, then just click upload, and it will save all of that information in there for you. Very, very simple to do this in our system, and again, you can store anything specific to this client that you want within the system. Service coordinator tab. A lot of times people use this if they have another contact for the client. Maybe they have a school contract or something like that. So they'll put the information in of that coordinator for like the school system, so that could be saved within the system. And then any information you put in there, obviously just click the save button, it will save for you. And then the others tab. This is a customized field that we can do for you. So if there's some other custom things that you want within the system, you'll work with our dev team, even sales, and we'll go ahead and we'll put this information into the system for you, and you can have a bunch of different custom tabs for yourself in here. That's pretty much it to add a new client or edit an existing one to change that information. The next thing that we would want to look at is adding a new authorization or editing an existing one. So let's just go into existing. We're going to click all existing authorizations. If we're going to add a new one, we would click add new authorization right here, but it's basically going to be the same steps that we're following. All existing authorizations. It's going to show all of our insurance authorizations for the client that have ever been put into the system. So obviously, if most of these have already ended, we're going to want to go to our current authorization. So let's click on that. First thing that's going to populate is the episode, or basically it's the diagnosis code, right? So obviously before it used to be the 299 code, now it's the F84, but you'll put your description into the system. My recommendation is always to put the name of the insurance with the expiration date of the authorization in there, and then that will always pop up for you within the scheduler. You'll be able to see that. You can put additional diagnosis in it if you need to. What's the onset date? Typically a recommendation for that is just the starting date of the authorization. You can put that in there as well. Referring physician if you would like, and any notes that you would like to have in there. And then obviously just save that episode for the first time. We can go to the authorization now, and we'll click on the pencil. This will now take us into the existing authorization. If it was a brand new authorization, all this information would be blank and we would fill it out as we go along. But let's just look at an existing one. So obviously we have our funding source selected. If it was a brand new one, we would be able to pick from a list of the insurances that you currently work with. So select that. Select the treatment type, if it's behavior therapy. If you're a multiple discipline organization, you're also doing physical therapy or occupational therapy or even speech therapy, you would have these available in the drop-down list. Just pick the correct one, and that way you can put the information in for that authorization. Is the authorization the primary authorization? If so, make sure this is selected. If you don't want to validate any visits against this authorization, you can select this as well. And if you want to put it in as a placeholder, you can also just select placeholder for that. So basically a placeholder is if maybe you've gotten a verbal okay from an insurance company to start, but they don't want you to bill anything out to them yet. So you can just select it as a placeholder. We can place the activities against it, put our authorization number in there. You can schedule staff. Staff can render those appointments. You can pay your staff. But when you go to process the billing and run the billing, those sessions, since they're in a placeholder mode, will not populate as ready to bill until such time as you come back and remove this from placeholder and take it back to primary, or just deselect the placeholder box. Then you'll rerun the billing and those sessions will populate. Any questions or things like that, don't hesitate to contact us. We'll walk you through it, but most likely in your implementation you've already gone through that as well. You'll add your authorization number, an insurance ID number if necessary, and then obviously who's the supervisor on this. So again, this is going to be the person that we are going to bill underneath for the insurance to get that claim paid. When we did the employee section, we went through how to create a supervisor. So you can always go back to the employees section and look at that. But basically I have 4 different options to choose from. All of these people are supervisors. They are credentialed with this insurance company already. So any of them would be a good option to select here. Then what is our copay? Is there a copay? Is there deductible? Are they in network? We have a couple external software boxes. So if you're not connecting to any external software, you don't need to worry about these. If you are, our implementation team will have gone through that with you, and we can do that. Again, you can always contact us at any time. We'll be happy to help you out with those types of things. Then make sure you put your start date and your end date for the authorization in there, and save those details. All right. Once those details are saved, you can now come down and go ahead and you can add activities within the system. So for instance, I already have a couple in here, but we could look at just adding a brand new one be the same type of thing. So we could say add an activity. What we want to do is select the type of activity from the drop-down that's available in here. You can also create any sort of sub-activities for these activities. So for instance, for supervision, I've created sub-activities for either a BCBA or a BCABA, and we can put those in there as well. So again, just select the type of activity that you would want to have here from the box or from the drop-down. Your auth start date and end date will always automatically populate. And then from here, we just need to pick our insurance code or CPT code. We have all of the new temporary codes in here, as well as the combo codes. But if you scroll down, you'll see the G codes, H codes, S codes, all of them are in there. If we don't have a code that you need, let us know, contact our implementation team or write a support ticket, and typically within a few minutes we'll get that added up there for you. So basically, if we want to put these in here, we can put them in different ways. Let's say we were going to do a combination code for whatever it is. We'll just call this one direct behavior therapy, and then we'd have our combination code, 364, the 365. Now that we've selected that, we need to know how is that billed out. Is it billed at 15 minutes, an hour, a per unit, or a per session? If it is a per unit, well then what is that unit based on the authorization? Is it 15 minutes, is it 30 minutes, or is it an hour? Typically for the T codes, you're always going to look at like a half-hour increments within here. So we're going to have it per unit, it's going to be 30 minutes, and then the rate, this is the rate that we're actually billing the insurance company for these things. So for instance, if we were getting from the insurance company, let's just say $60 an hour for direct behavior therapy, that would break down in this situation as per unit 30 minutes. So that's going to be $30 per 30 minutes, and that's what we would put in here. We would put just 30. And then now we can determine like the type of split. So especially with the new temporary codes, depending on the funding source, they want these split differently. So if it's something that wants it split daily, they basically want, if it's a 2-hour session, they want the first half hour of the session to go to the 0364 code. The remaining part of that session, or the remaining 3 units in that session, would go to the 365 code. So as long as we've set it up as a combo split here, and then we have our units set up correctly and our rate, then what is our split type? That would be a per day split. There are other funding sources that maybe they'll give you a authorization, a monthly authorization, but they only want the first unit of any service that you do for that month to go to like the 364 code. And if that's the case, you would just come to the drop-down menu and you can go ahead and select by month or week. And if there's a different scenario that comes up, just contact us. We can easily make a change within our system. If you didn't do the combo codes and you needed to do something else, again, you could do that. So if it was a different code and it was like the 9 codes in here, just select the code, and then again, how is that billed out? If it's not per unit and it's actually per hour, you could just select per hour, and then just make sure if the rate is $60 an hour, that you change this, right, so that the rate is 60. And then don't even worry about the split, because it's not going to affect anything because we don't have a split going on over here. Now the last things that we can do in here, we can run up to 3 frequencies per activity within an authorization. So for instance, if the insurance company has told me that we're allowed to provide 40 hours of direct behavior therapy per week, we can actually come down here and select that hours per week is or equals 40. We could put that into the system. And you can run up to 3 frequencies per activity. So if you also wanted to put in what your total hours for the authorization are, you absolutely could do that as well. Put that in, and then to make sure you save any of these in here. I'm going to move these. I'm going to actually switch this back to per unit just so you can see some other things. If it was a per unit, you'll also see that this changes down here so that you can put whatever your units are. So if your units are every half hour and you needed to do 40 hours per week, then you would come in here and say my units per week equal 80. Again, because we're talking about half-hour increments, and divide that out by 2, that's where you're going to get the 40 hours per the week, okay? And so you'll be able to put any of these parameters in here. The nice thing about that is once you have these rules in here, the system, when you're trying to schedule, will run a checks and balance. And so if you have 40 hours is all you're allowed to provide for the week, and you try to schedule over that, the system will either alert you to that, or it will deny the session from being created, depending on what type of rules you've checked off on the admin side of things. So very, very simple to do those. Whenever you're done with them, always click Save. The last thing that I want to go over in here is the off number for activity if different. There are scenarios where you get an authorization for a client. Maybe you get some hours for direct behavior therapy, hours for assessment, hours for supervision, and so on. And inevitably, sometimes we exhaust one of those activities. So we go through all the hours or units that we are allowed to, and we ask the insurance company for additional time, units, or hours for that particular activity. If the insurance company approves that, sometimes what they'll do is they will approve additional hours, but they'll give you a new authorization number for that particular activity. If that's the case, you don't need to create a whole new authorization. You'll just come into this one. Obviously, change your parameters down here if any of those change what you're authorized to do, and then type in the new authorization number if it is different from the existing authorization number for the other activities within the system. And then this number down here will always override this number within the system. Save that, and then you'll be good to go. It's as simple as that to add the authorizations to the system. Again, everything that I've gone through here on the client side and anything in our help, you can always click on the help function right here. Go down to the particular area or type in what you're looking for, and since we're in client and I was just in add new or edit existing authorization, we can go to it, and it's going to be step-by-step instructions with screenshots of everything that I've just done with you.